Welcome to BharatLens, India's sharpest eye on world affairs. Welcome to BharatLens, and today we are covering a story that represents one of the most painful strategic setbacks India has suffered in years. And almost nobody is talking about it loudly enough. 10 years of diplomacy. $120 million in investment. A 10-year contract signed with Iran just 2 years ago. A port that India built from scratch to bypass Pakistan and connect directly to Afghanistan, Central Asia, and Russia. All of it, gone. As of April 26, 2026. India's most ambitious connectivity project in its extended neighborhood has now potentially reached a dead end after a U.S. waiver on sanctions imposed on the project expired on Sunday, with no signs of its revival from Washington. And the most devastating part of this story is not what India lost. It is who gained. Because the moment India was forced to walk out of Chabahar, China and Pakistan walked in as the winners. Without firing a single shot. Without spending a single rupee. Just by waiting for America to do their work for them. Today we go through the complete story of Chabahar. What it is. Why India built it. How Trump destroyed it. What it means for India's strategic future. And the one question the government does not want to answer: did India capitulate too easily? Let us start from the beginning. Because to understand how big this loss is, you need to understand what Chabahar was supposed to give India. The Chabahar Port is located in southeastern Iran, on the Gulf of Oman, 300 kilometers east of the Strait of Hormuz. This geography is everything. It sits outside the Hormuz choke point. It gives India direct maritime access to Iran, and from Iran, direct land access to Afghanistan, Central Asia, and Russia, without ever having to cross Pakistani territory. Think about what that means for India. Pakistan has blocked India from having any land route to Afghanistan. Any overland trade India wants to do with Central Asia has to go around Pakistan entirely. Chabahar was India's answer to that blockade. A sea-to-land corridor that completely outflanked Pakistan. The port has been hailed as a cornerstone of India's economic and strategic ambitions over the last 2 decades. It is also a key component of the International North-South Transport Corridor, a multimodal network linking India with Central Asia and Russia, that was designed to reduce transit times for trade dramatically. And directly across from Chabahar, 72 kilometers away on the other side of the Pakistan-Iran border, sits Gwadar Port. China's port. The crown jewel of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China's answer to India's Chabahar. Built to give China direct access to the Arabian Sea and a stranglehold on the region's trade routes. For years, Chabahar and Gwadar sat side by side as the two competing visions for who would dominate the trade and connectivity of South Asia and Central Asia. India versus China. Chabahar versus Gwadar. In 2024, India signed a 10-year contract with Iran to operate the Shahid Beheshti terminal at Chabahar. India invested $120 million in equipping the port. It was the most serious, most committed India had ever been to the project. And 7 months after that 10-year contract was signed, Trump pulled the rug out from under it. The Chabahar story is ultimately a story about what happens when your most important strategic project depends on another country's goodwill. And that country changes its mind. India has enjoyed exemptions from U.S. sanctions on the Chabahar port since 2018, when the first Trump administration granted India a waiver to develop the port. For 8 years, across 2 U.S. administrations, India operated Chabahar under the protection of that waiver. TRT Global. But in September 2025, the second Trump administration, under Secretary of State Marco Rubio, decided to revoke all exemptions to Iran-related sanctions, including for Chabahar. This was the same Rubio who is now being flown to Delhi to repair the India-US relationship after the hellhole remarks. The same administration that is India's most important strategic partner. The same partner that just dismantled India's most important strategic asset in the region. TRT Global India lobbied hard and managed to get the Chabahar exemption extended until April 26, 2026, after reportedly promising to wind down operations there. Wind down operations. India was told, "We will give you 6 more months to exit gracefully. But you must exit." France 24 India also paid $120 million in promised investments in February this year, raising criticism from opposition parties that accused the Modi government of buckling under U.S. pressure to abandon a vital strategic project. Think about the sequence. India signed a 10-year deal. Paid $120 million. Was then told to leave. Promised to leave. Got 6 months. And then left. All because Washington decided the Iran sanctions mattered more than India's strategic interests. France 24. The plan involves India Ports Global Limited selling its stake in the Chabahar Free Zone to a local Iranian entity. Officials have explored an arrangement under which an Iranian operator would manage the port during the sanctions period, with the possibility of India resuming operational control once restrictions are eased. With the possibility of India resuming operational control once restrictions are eased. That is diplomatic language for, we are losing this, and we hope to get it back someday. The government's critics were not gentle about what happened. The main opposition party stated, to now hear that India has unceremoniously retreated from Chabahar at the first hint of pressure from the United States represents a new low in this government's conduct of foreign policy. For how long will the government of India allow Washington to dictate our national interests? These are harsh words. But they are hard to dismiss entirely. Because here is the uncomfortable truth. France 24. India talks constantly about strategic autonomy. About not bowing to foreign pressure. About being a rising power that charts its own course. And yet, when faced with a choice between defying US sanctions to protect a $120 million, 10-year strategic investment, and walking away quietly, India walked away. The Indian government did not allocate any money for Chabahar in its annual budget this year, the first such omission in nearly a decade. That is not strategic pause. That is strategic retreat. Now let us talk about who wins from India's exit. Because this is the part that should make every Indian deeply uncomfortable. China wins. Immediately. Completely. Without doing anything. Gwadar Port, China's port in Pakistan, was always competing with Chabahar for dominance over the region's trade and connectivity. Every ship that does not go through Chabahar will potentially go through Gwadar. Every Central Asian country that cannot access India through Chabahar will default to the China-Pakistan corridor instead. Chabahar was seen as a counterbalance to the Chinese-backed development at Gwadar. India's exit from Chabahar removes that counterbalance. Pakistan wins. For 30 years, Pakistan has used its geography as leverage, blocking India's access to Afghanistan and Central Asia by refusing to allow overland trade. Chabahar was India's bypass around that blockade. With Chabahar in limbo, the blockade is effectively restored. Athens News Afghanistan loses too. The port has been used to send humanitarian aid to Afghanistan. India's $120 million investment was also supposed to provide Afghanistan's road network and alternative access to a seaport, significantly enhancing Afghanistan's connectivity to regional and global markets. The people of a landlocked, aid-dependent country are also casualties of this decision. Athens News and Russia loses an option. The international north-south transport corridor, which would have connected India to Russia through Iran, depended on Chabahar as its southern anchor. That corridor is now a weaker proposition. In one decision, driven by America's Iran sanctions, India's entire Western connectivity strategy has been set back by years. The honest answer is, yes, but not soon. And not easily. India's Ministry of External Affairs stated that the matter is under active discussion with both the United States and Iran. The situation is complicated by ongoing regional tensions linked to the broader conflict in West Asia. Experts say the expiration of the US sanctions waiver is unlikely to force India out of the project permanently, but will constrain its development, leaving the strategic port operational but not commercially scalable. The official arrangement being explored, hand the stake to an Iranian entity temporarily, with a clause allowing India to reclaim control when sanctions are lifted, is India's attempt to preserve its legal position without triggering sanctions penalties. But here is the problem with that plan. Indian officials are not hopeful of another extension, even though Indian and American officials have reportedly been engaged since October last year. And there is a deeper issue. The Iran war is not over. The Hormuz crisis is not resolved. The US maximum pressure campaign against Iran is not showing signs of softening. And the new Iranian leadership, Mojtaba Khamenei, the IRGC hardliners, is less likely to maintain the terms of any arrangement made with the previous government. The honest assessment: India may not see full operational control of Chabahar again for years. And in geopolitics, years is enough time for China to consolidate Gwadar's dominance permanently. Here's what we are left with after everything. India built Chabahar over 10 years to solve 3 strategic problems simultaneously: bypass Pakistan, connect to Central Asia, and counter China's Gwadar. It was India's most creative and ambitious piece of regional infrastructure diplomacy. And it was taken away. Not by Pakistan. Not by China. Not by Iran. By a sanctions waiver expiry in Washington, D.C., in a city where India's relationship is supposedly at its strongest in history. The opposition's question deserves a serious answer. Should India have defied the sanctions and stayed in Chabahar? There are real risks to doing that. American sanctions on Indian companies could have been devastating. But there are also real costs to not doing it. And those costs are now visible. Chabahar is operational but not India's. Gwadar is fully China's. Pakistan's geographic blockade of India's Central Asian access is partially restored. The lesson is one India must learn before it faces this choice again. Strategic assets cannot be built on another country's permission. Any project that requires a waiver from a third party to continue is a project that the third party can take away at any time. India needs Chabahar. And India needs a version of Chabahar that does not depend on Washington's goodwill to exist. Until then, this is the price of strategic dependence. And it is a price every Indian will eventually pay. Comment below, do you think India should have defied US sanctions and stayed in Chabahar? Or was retreating the right call? Your answer matters.